In this video, we will be using proportions inside of some application problems. Let's look at example 1. A Toyota Prius drove 208 miles on 5 gallons of gas. How far should it be able to travel on a full 11-gallon tank of gas? In order to solve using proportions, we first need to identify what two things this question is talking about. In this question, we can see that we have 208 miles on 5 gallons of gas. So the two pieces of puzzles for our problem are going to be miles and gallons. We need to find quantities that represent each of those miles and gallons. The first sentence tells us that the Prius drove 208 miles on 5 gallons of gas. Those two guys are buddies. They go together. So they're going to be in the same ratio. So for the first one, we have 208 miles. Since miles is on top in my setup, I'm going to put the miles on top over here. And his buddy, the gallons that go with him in his ratio, is 5. So again, we're using this information here, 208 miles and 5 gallons of gas to set up our first ratio. Now we're going to look for one more number in this problem, and it's right here. It's 11. 11 is the number of gallons that we would like to know about. Since 11 is gallons, we need to put it where gallons go on the bottom, right there. The question is asking how far or how many miles it will be able to travel. So that tells me that we are looking for miles, and we'll put it X in the miles spot. Now we can solve this proportion by using cross multiplication. So 11 times 208 and 5 times X. 11 times 208 is 2,288, and 5 times X is just 5X. To get X by itself, we're going to divide that 5 out, because 5 divided by 5 is a 1. That will leave me with 1X. And 2288 divided by 5 is 457.6. It says round to the nearest hundredth, but this one came out nice, so we don't have to worry about that. My answer then is 457.6, and remember that was in the spot of miles. So now we're going to check and make sure this makes sense. It can go 208 miles on 5 gallons. So if we're using 11 gallons, that's more than double. So our miles should also be more than double, and it is. So that answer does make sense. Let's take a look at example 2. If a piece of steel that's 12 feet long weighs 168 pounds, how much will a piece of steel that's 20 feet long weigh? Again, our first job is to identify what things we're talking about, and I'm seeing feet and pounds. So I'm going to use that to set up my ratios. We're going to use feet and pounds. Now, in this first sentence, we are told that one of the pieces of steel is 12 feet long and weighs 168 pounds. That's going to be the first ratio that we're going to need in our proportion. 12 is feet, and since we've put feet on the top, we're going to put 12 on the top. And the number of pounds that correspond with 12 feet is 168. So there's our first ratio. Next, we need to look for one more number, and right here is where he's at. The next number we have is 20. We want to know how much will a piece that's 20 feet long weigh. So 20 goes with feet. So when we write 20 feet in our proportion, we want it to be on top because we decided in the beginning that we put feet on the top. So I'm going to put 20 here. And how much will it weigh? Well, that's the question. And weight is in pounds, so there's your X. Now that we've got it set up, we can cross multiply to solve. We start by doing x by 12. So when you multiply x and 12, we get 12x. 168 times 20 is 3,360. To solve for x, we would need to divide both sides by 12, because 12 divided by 12 is like a 1, and 1x is what we're looking for. And 3,360 divided by 12 is 280. And again, that was in the pounds spot. So my answer is 280 pounds. Now, before we call it done, we're going to make sure this answer makes sense. If we had a 12-foot long piece that weighed 168 pounds, we would expect a 20-foot long piece to weigh more, and ours does. It was 168, and ours is 280. So that makes sense. Let's try example 3. If the Lakers have won 27 games and lost 17 games, at this rate, how many games should they win in an 82-game season? This one's actually a little sneaky because at first glance, it looks like we're talking about wins and losses. And that would be a good first guess on what we would need to start with. We would start with a ratio of wins and losses. And we could go ahead and put those in for our first one. We have 27 wins and 17 losses. The trouble comes when I go to put in the number that we have left, which is 82. 82 is not wins, and 82 is not losses. It's total games in the season. So I cannot put 82 here because it doesn't represent wins, and I cannot put 82 here. It does not represent losses. So we're going to have to actually change this ratio so that we can use the number 82. Instead of wins and losses, I think what we need to do is wins over the total number of games. Now, we're going to have to do a little fancy work here, but we're going to be able to make this happen. It says in the problem they've won 27 games. So I know where 27 is going to go. The question is, what goes here? How many total games did they play so far? Well, we can figure that out based off of this. If they won 27 games and lost 17 games, the total number of games they have played would be 27 plus 17, or 44 games. So in total, they have played 44 games. We got that because they've won 27 and they've lost 17. So add those together, that'll tell us how many games they've played so far. 82 is the total number of games in their season. So it's going to go here. And how many games will they win out of 82? That's what we're looking for right there. Up next, we're going to cross multiply to solve for x. I need to take 27 times 82. That's going to be 2,214. And 44 times x, or 44x. We're going to solve for x by dividing over the 44. And this isn't going to work out perfectly, but we're going to be able to round to the nearest hundredth, like the directions say. And we're getting x is about 50.32. It says round to the nearest hundredth, so we would leave it at 50.32 wins, but effectively we're saying about 50 wins out of 82 games.